Hey everyone, Livy here, back with another video. It's been a little while for me at the time of me filming this, but today we are going to talk about the June 2025 monthly musings. This is all things life, books, and tarot oracle related. I do these wrap-ups just in case people are interested in getting to know a little bit about me, the things that I read, and the decks that I used during the month that just passed. So that was June. Let me start by saying that I felt like, for me, June was the month that just kept on going, and it wasn't in a bad way, actually. It's just a month that was filled with things that happened. So can I report, was June a better month for me? Overall, yes. But there was a lot of things that were kind of happening in my life, and I do want to talk a little bit about it. So first and foremost, right, June is that time of the year, of course, where schools are winding down. So, I work at a school. We had a lot of last day of school activities. There were things like field day and field trips and all these things that were happening in, like at the end of the month. Around that time too, a lot of events were going on, or just commitments that I had already. So one of them was like a wedding expo thing for the incoming wedding ceremony I have to do in November. I was also a friend's wedding, so I got to, and it was so funny because it was actually at the same place that I am gonna be getting married. So that was super hilarious to kind of go there as a guest and see what the experience will be like before I actually do my own. And then what else happened? Oh, there was a day trip that I did that was really beautiful. I don't know if I'm going to be too lazy to insert some pictures around here of it, but Daryl and I, my husband, did some day trip stuff where we went to this cool place called Jenner in Northern California. It was just really beautiful cafe that was there, views of the coast. Got to also pick up our wine. That's the reason why we went there. We have a wine club membership, and we got to pick up our bottles and also go to that town by the ocean. So it was very beautiful. And then, of course, it was also this happens every year where I live, but if you guys don't know, I am Portuguese, and there are so many Portuguese people in the area in which I live that every year they have a Portugal Day for it. So I also got to go to that. That was really cool. And other than that, a lot of things started happening when Daryl left. So he went to India basically to be with his parents for a little bit, not only just to visit them, but also because of the Indian reception that we will eventually be doing in December. I know this is so crazy. There's so many things happening towards the end of the year. I do fear that I will probably have to film a lot of things in advance and just schedule them for you guys. I'm going to be really honest. I won't have enough time to be around as much. So just be aware of that getting in towards the latter half of the year. But yeah, Daryl left for India to visit his parents and to take care of a lot of stuff with the reception that we will have there. So while he's been away, because obviously I got off on vacation, right, from work, and I'm still on vacation until basically the end of July or close to the end of July. So what did I do while he was away, right? Well, luckily I've been actually hanging out more with friends, and specifically people from work too. They started to become more friends, so that was really cool. So it's been a lot of hangouts with them. We even had a crazy beach day in Santa Cruz where I literally got the worst sunburnt I've ever been in my life, but it was really cool to just go to the beach and be in the ocean and swim and all that stuff. I've been doing a lot of more walks around town, trying different foods and such. Decor shopping again for more wedding related things. Since this is a fall themed wedding, it's happening in November, right? I was just finding little knickknacks and things that I think will be cute. I'm still debating what I want to do for wedding favors. So if you guys know of any cool and maybe not too expensive of a wedding favor idea, let me know, I guess, below. And then finally, I guess I've been also getting a chance to go and just hang out at cafes. I saw a movie. I saw the How to Train Your Dragon movie. To be honest, that movie is not as good as the not cartoon, but you know what I mean, the animated version. So it is what it is. It is pretty much an exact reenactment though. So just know that. And anyways, because now it has been 5 minutes of me talking about life, because oh my God, I actually lived my life, you guys. Can you believe? Oh, and I also have coffee, so. But yeah, I've actually lived my life this June. A lot of shit happened, and there's even more I can say. But do I do this now before I get into books? Maybe. Just so you guys know, because you might not know this about me, I've hinted at it for a little while, but because I have more art done of it, I guess I can talk about it a little more. I am currently, as you can see, in progress of making my own, I don't know what to call it. Well, no, I do know what to call it. It's basically a spread deck, okay? I'm in the process of making my own tarot, or it could be used for oracle, spread deck. And as you can see, I have decided to do the crazy ass decision, which was to do this shit by hand, okay? There's no collage, anything in here. This is my own art. This is art. I have made this. Is it the most brilliant thing in the world? So a lot of people would probably say no, it's not. But I'm proud of what I've been able to do so far. And I really, really like it. It is slowly, as you can see, come to fruition. This is going to be the backs. That's why this is blank. I just wanted to draw it and then I put words over it. Yeah, this is going to be the backs. But anyways, as you can see, it's slowly underway. I don't have all the cards, but I started to make my own spread deck. Now, can I tell you, I will be honest, before I move into books here, I will be honest. The spread deck, I cannot give you a definitive answer to when it will come out, because a lot of it is based on how much I can do the rest of the artwork. How quickly, how much time do I have to do it, inspiration, and all that, to do it. I will be surprised if it comes out by the end of the year. More than likely, just because of the pace I've been going at and the fact that there will be... Okay, well, there will be exactly 78 spread cards, but 2 other cards are going to be added into the deck. That'll be like the guide. It's not really a guide. You don't need a guide for a spread deck, to be honest, but they will serve as the guide. So it'll make it 80 cards, but not really on NPC. I'm deciding to do it on NPC. I've thought about if I want to do it on Game Crafter too, but to be completely honest with you, I am not 100% a fan of the Game Crafter cardstock. And as someone who, you guys know, I have texture issues. If I have to deal with that, I will literally go insane. So I don't know. I'm thinking about it. But anyways, we're going to move on now because I have a lot of tarot and oracle stuff to talk about, but I'm also going to talk about books. So books. In the month of June, despite my life getting a lot more busy and doing more things, I read a total of 4 books in the month of June. So we're going to start with the book that I read first, and that was this one. This is Iron Widow. This by, I hope I'm not pronouncing her name wrong, or their name, sorry, Jiren J. Shao, right? Iron Widow. If you like reading YA, or if you like YA sci-fi or sci-fi books in general and all that jazz, you have probably heard about this book. It is infamous for having a thurple in it. Spoilers, there is a thurple of a kind. It's not like too in-depth, but basically, yeah, there is like a thurple situation. And this was a really interesting read. This was the first book I read in the month. I would say, there was things about this book I really liked. but there's definitely a lot, obviously, that was kind of left out. And I think it's because there's another book after this. And so for that reason, I kind of give this like a 4, just like a solid 4. I feel like it could have been better if there was, again, some like missing pieces kind of things were figured out. I'm a little unsure with like the ending, how things are going to go, like what's going to happen. Especially with one of the love interests in this like Thurple whatever situation. I just didn't know what was going to happen. And so I'm really curious to see, but yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry, by the way, too. The sun is doing really weird things right now. So if it changes in and out of lighting, that's just a natural sunlight. I don't put any, things on here. But yeah, I just kind of felt like it needed just a little more to make this more fleshed out for me. But this was not a bad read at all. So yeah, this was Iron Widow. I don't know yet if I'm really interested. Like, so that's the thing too. It's technically a 4. Like, it wasn't badly written and anything of that sort. But I think why it's just a solid 4 and why I'm not like rushing to go out and buy this next book is just, yeah, just needed a little more for me to be completely excited to read the next one. I probably will read the next one eventually. I just don't know when, but it's more on the back burner. But anyways, this is Iron Widow. And then after Iron Widow, I read this book. This is The Memory Librarian and Other Stories of Dirty Computer. This is, of course, by the amazing Janelle Monáe. And I will say, for me too, for even this one, so this is a short, if you can't tell, this is a short story collection, but it's based on the world Janelle Monáe has kind of built up in her music, specifically the album Dirty Computer. And even though I love Janelle Monáe, I love her music, I found myself, I think my biggest problem with this, okay, let me backtrack a little bit. I would give this book a rating, like this short story collection, I would give it a rating of 3.5. The writing in this is not bad. I think what got me and why I found myself even getting bored kind of while reading some of these is because they're random stories within this world. I just was kind of looking for the thing that would connect them all. You know what I mean? Some stories too, I thought were executed better than others within this book. And I was just looking for the thing that would connect them because her music's really good at like connecting those little dots and those pieces. And I thought every character she was bringing up was actually somebody who was supposed to be major important and go back to the main character of Jane. But that work wasn't really done very much. So it was kind of confusing. Like, were these people supposed to be all connected? I don't know. It just felt very disjointed a little bit. So yeah, I gave this one 3.5. But the writing and some of these stories were really heartbreaking at points. It was really deep, but again, I was just looking for the thing that connected them all, so that's why I kind of like fell down a bit in ratings for me. But yeah, this was The Memory Librarian. I still love Janelle Monáe and her music, still my fave, but the story collection, I just wanted, I guess, a little bit more to it. But then, after I read The Memory Librarian, I read this book. This one, another interesting kind of book. This is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. As you can see too, you know what's really funny? Besides the last book I'm going to show and talk about, most of the books I read in June for some reason were sci-fi, which is kind of weird for me. Not that I don't read sci-fi, clearly I do. I like sci-fi. It's just not as preferred of a genre compared to fantasy. So it's kind of funny how I accidentally rearranged it where they all, like a bunch of sci-fi books ended up together in 1 month. But The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, this was an interesting book. It was doing a lot of different things. It vaguely reminded me, like the way it was written, it vaguely reminded me of almost like a Star Trek episodic story. And that's kind of interesting in a way, especially because it's supposed to have like a linear plot where they're trying to get from one point A to point B, but they're like doing a bunch of detours in between. And how do I explain how I feel about this book? It's kind of strange, okay? Because when you read the book, the way it's written isn't bad. The writing is actually good. It's decent. And even like the little adventures that the characters, because it's a whole crew, right? It's a ship, and they're going from one side of the galaxy to the other to build like this jump point or something like that. And like that whole journey and learning about the characters, because it's definitely a character book, right? It was like designed to like kind of develop and really flesh out the characters. Despite all that, I found myself, I don't know why, it wasn't until the very end of the book where things actually started getting spicy, like not spicy like in like smexy stuff, like spicy as in like, oh shit, everything's going down. It wasn't until near the very end of the book. So there was something about the middle of the book that's like, yeah, this is decent, but I'm looking for a more central plot or subplot. I don't know. Does that make sense? Like, it almost felt like this book went on way longer than it needed to, but at the same time, it needed all the information. It was very strange. I found myself, it kind of sits in the same space where I would give it kind of like a 3.54 because I'm looking, right? I'm looking for more here. I wanted something more exciting in the middle than I feel like the story kind of gave. Because, yeah, it just felt like a lot of little episodes of a show instead of being one cohesive book, if that made sense. So, again, there's nothing wrong with the writing. The characters were actually fleshed out. The world politics were really interesting. Different alien race relations and humans on top of that. Even things like questions about AI and cloning and all these things. It was doing a lot of good stuff. I don't know. I just needed more. That was the theme of most of this month. Is I just needed a little more from these books, and I wasn't getting them as much as I thought. So, am I in a rush to read the next one of this? No. I don't even know if I want to be honest, because when I found out that the next book is supposed to be about the AI, and I just don't know if I care enough. So yeah, this is A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I'm going to move on to the last book so then we can finally get into some tarot stuff, yeah? So the last book that I read during the month of June was this bad boy, finally. Okay, this is Every Gift a Curse, and it is by Carolyn O'Donoghue. This is the last book in the series that you guys have seen me read a lot of on this channel. This is the last book. This is it. The story is now all wrapped up in a bow, and it was really fascinating to read this ending. What I really like about the series, if you can't tell already, is obviously it revolves around witches and tarot and magic. But tarot plays a big part of it. I mean, if you look at even this card, right, you see things that could go from the Tower, the World, even her body, right, is showing the world. But then it's also the Two of Swords, and that makes 100% sense with the plot of the book. So it's really cool. Like, whoever designed the cover on this was very smart. They took like 3 different tarot motifs in here. And most of this series, as you can see down here too, also follows that. Now, how do I feel about the ending of the series? I think for the most part, it makes sense. It made sense. The ending made a lot of sense, especially, with what has happened so far in the book. It made sense how it ended, but there's a couple things. So I would give this book, it sits somewhere in the 4.5 space for me. And the reason why this ending to the series is not a little higher for me is that I was looking for some closure between some of the characters here. So this is the main character, Maeve, and I was looking for a little bit more of closure with her and this character, Erin, and then a little more closure with this character, Ro. And there just wasn't as much closure between these two. Like, I was looking for just a little bit more wrapped up of a thought there with them, and unfortunately that didn't exactly happen in this book, so it is what it is now. It's over. But I was just looking for a little bit more of that, and that's why the rating kind of fell down a little bit for me. But otherwise, a lot of this stuff made a lot of sense, and it was like very intense on a lot of points, brought up a lot of interesting topics. The world building in this feels really good. Like, it feels like a more fleshed out idea of like Ireland and the different I wouldn't say necessarily politics, but the religious aspects of things and how that intersects with magic, and magic involved in this, and tarot, and all these things have a really interesting intersection. If you like the idea of that, I would definitely recommend this series in general. Some things to note though, just so you guys are aware. Some trigger warnings, of course, is that they do talk about things like self-harm and depression, mentions of religious trauma. There's also death involved. There's stuff around conversion. There's stuff around like just really intense topics. Also, I know the main character can be very divisive because she is meant to kind of be an asshole. She's not supposed to, you're not necessarily, how do I explain this? She's kind of a bitch, but I really liked her because she was selfish. Like, sometimes we need selfish characters, but I know a lot of people don't like selfish characters. So if you don't like selfish characters, you might not like this series because she is very selfish, but there's a lot of things going on with that too. And sometimes she could actually be more selfish because her friends are sometimes being dicks. It's like this whole complicated thing. Not going to get into it, but I did overall like this series. I'm glad I finished it. I loved all the tarot references. They were really good, very smart. Cover designs, again, very good, very smart. So this was a fun YA, right? This is fun YA. I like that it was set in Ireland. It was not set in the US. That's sometimes so hard to find. So this was just really good. And now, even though, oh my God, it's been like over 21 minutes or 22 minutes of filming, I am now finally going to get into tarot and oracle. So I'm going to briefly pause this on my end, get all that stuff situated, and then we will dive right into it because there is actually a little bit to talk about for our tarot oracle section. Okay, everyone. When it comes to talking about tarot and oracle, I guess the first thing I should get out of the way, because I started to forget doing this practice, and I actually like talking about it because it gives people food for thought, I think, too. My card of the month for the month of June, as you can see here, was the Page of Pentacles. And I have to say, looking back on this card now, I think it does make a lot of sense for the month of, June. And I would say these two are probably the most accurate because I was enjoying the fruits of the world and enjoying things and having a good time and learning and trying new things and being bold and actually living my life, like this card kind of depicts. But at the same time, I am a student. I was learning, not necessarily how to make bread, but like just appreciating and understanding the world. So in a lot of ways, this made sense for the month of June. There was a lot of learning and growing and just being young and youthful and just trying, going out into the world, not being afraid of opportunities and things like that. I feel like I tried to live this as best as possible. So we will see how July goes for me. I'm filming in early July as I do this, but yeah. These are the cards, but this is the page. I'll get into this. I'll talk about these decks that I used during the month a little bit soon, but we're going to start by talking about the decks, the oracle decks I used during the month. We're going to start with this one because I will have to say this was my least used deck in the whole month when it came for oracle. This, as you can see, is Runners of the Sun. This is specifically 2.0. I don't really know what the difference is from the original, but that's the version I have. These are the backs. Shiny. Edges. Also shiny. And this deck. Okay, this deck is funny. The readings I did do with this deck were really interesting. But for some reason, I'm still having problems connecting. Like, I didn't want to use this deck as much as I use the other Oracle deck that I'm going to show. I did pair this with the other Oracle for a couple readings, and I feel like that kind of like helped make it more useful. But there's something about the way that this deck is done that I have not been bonding with it as much as I thought. And I don't know, again, I don't know if it's a thing where I don't like the borders, like the color of these borders, and so it makes it hard to pair with other decks. I don't know if it's the way maybe that the collage work is done, because it does skew a little busier. And when decks skew a little busier in their collage work, it's a little bit harder for me to get into them. It is strange because the keywords on this one are really good. And again, the couple of readings I did do with this paired with the other one were good. I guess I didn't have the patience most of the month to attempt to do that. And so for that reason, Runners of the Sun ended up being my least used. I still want to give a crack at it. I still want to give it a better try. I don't know when that'll be, but at least I tried for now. It just, I guess, wasn't really its time to shine. But I did want to mention Runners of the Sun. The other Oracle deck I used, though, which was really good and paired probably with the next deck I will talk about a lot, is this one. This ended up being the shining deck of the month in that way, which might be weird to you guys. But this is the Garden Variety Oracle. This is by Sarah Stassi. She is a creator that's actually local to me. She does her decks like this weird configuration of the box, is a Game Crafters thing. So you can get all her decks on Game Crafters, but you can also get her decks on her Etsy. Now, funny enough, I think Etsy was faster, of course, for me because she lives kind of close to where I live. Not 100%, we're not in the same exact city, but we live close-ish, so it never takes very long to get her decks. So that's why I probably go with Etsy. But anyways, these are the backs of this deck, which are cool. They're fun. They're cute. But this deck, if you can't tell, is a food oracle. So basically, every card, you get the picture of the fruit or vegetable in question. You get the title, the name of the vegetable or fruit, and then you get a keyword. And I think because this deck is so specific, so exact, so there's not like a lot I really have to question. Only some of the words, maybe a little bit, and I have to think about how they apply. But there's not really a lot to question. Like, you can just have this as is, and it's really good. And the colors are super fun. This ended up being, like, literally, like I said, the MVP of the month of June. It was so easy to just throw this little deck in my bag, have a good time of it, get a clear answer and reading right from this deck. It was fantastic. And you wouldn't think, right, a food oracle, but I highly recommend this one. And this was also, by the way, I did do a tarot meetup, my group, and I took this deck and the next deck I'm going to show, and people were living. They were so impressed. They were so happy. They're like, oh my God, this deck is so cool. This deck is so fun. And they love the different combinations, and they are getting some like great intuitive hits from this deck because it's just so fun, This was such a good little one. And it's crazy because normally I wouldn't go. So this deck, I think, only has 36 cards, as you can see. It's bridge size. It has that like Game Crafters card stock, which again is not 100% impressive for me, but it's like this one's texture is okay-ish, but normally I'm not a fan of this. But this deck was so good, and it worked so well in the month of June, especially, I'm going to show you, especially when paired with the first tarot I want to talk about in the month of June, which is this one, the Magic Pantry Tarot. This is a Cedar McLeod deck. I have to say, out of all of Cedar's work so far that I have, which isn't a lot, but like, it's some. This is 100% my favorite. This is the best. This is the best. And you guys might also recognize this deck because I used it a lot for my Tarot March Madness. This specifically was the runner-up deck. This was second place, and for a good reason. These are the backs. I actually like the cardstock of this deck a lot. And these two were the shining light of my tarot meetup because I brought these two together to pair because we were talking about tarot and oracle and how do you work with both. And obviously, as you can see, one great food deck tarot with one great food oracle, they were like the perfect pair. People at the group, like I said, they were absolutely living for this combination. They thought it was so fun. They liked the artwork of both of these decks. There was a lot of food for thought going on because I was showing examples of like how to pair these and how would you get this, you know, just like random whatever. And people were really enjoying it. So I loved this combination. I will forever love this combination. I will probably use this again in the future, probably even next year, knowing how amazing this was. I would read for somebody with this combination of decks. This is such a clear, like both of these are very clear readers. Both decks are incredibly smart in their usage of food. Just so good, guys. So good. This was honestly the top tier combination. It worked really, they just worked so well together. So they were honestly my favorite things from the month of June in terms of tarot and oracle. Now I am going to show the other decks. I still have, besides obviously the Magic Pantry Tarot you guys saw on the side here, I have some other decks to talk about that I also used during the month. They were not used as much as probably this one and this one were because they were paired together. But I still want to talk about how it went, right? How was I pairing the things? So let me move both of these. Another deck I used during the month of June was this deck. This is the Wonderworld Tarot. Cute. This is the mini version. Yep. The mini version looks the exact same as, like the artwork wise, looks the exact same as the first edition. I think you can still get this mini. I do recommend it if you are someone who wanted the first edition for the color choice, right? For the colors, because the second edition has different coloring. It's slightly different. If you want the same exact like that, I recommend this deck. Now, here's the backs. This deck is based on Alice in Wonderland. And I will say, I didn't use this deck a lot, but I kind of took it to work a couple times and did some quick readings. And I also used it, of course, for a week ahead reading. You guys already know, I've talked about the first edition before I had the mini for a long time. I decided to use the mini, of course, though, this month because I always like having one deck in my rotation that is a travel size, right? That I can easily throw into a bag, take with me everywhere, go about. I don't have to be as precious with. And so I chose this deck. And same feelings, you know, as the typical other, the first edition that I have of this deck, right? It's good. It's a very smart deck if you like Alice in Wonderland. There are a lot of things going on in this deck, from not only just Alice's adventures in Wonderland, but obviously it includes images and such from Through the Looking Glass. This book, this tarot deck also combines things from a bunch of different movies. So as you can see, there's an aesthetic that does play into like the Disney Alice in Wonderland. But there's also things in here that correlate to the 1999 version of Alice in Wonderland and even to the Tim Burton rendering of it. So it's doing a lot of smart things. It's taking all these elements together. There's also things that are specifically would be for fans of the actual books, like if you've read the actual books. So it does a lot of smart things with Alice in Wonderland. I cannot recommend this deck enough. So far, well, okay, here I'm saying so far because Emma Zhang, who's the same creator of the Dream Vision Tarot and Dream of the Nile Tarot, She is doing an Alice in Wonderland deck right now. She is slowly doing artwork and shit for it, and that deck looks amazing. I'm very excited about that one. I will be buying that one probably. But so far, this is the smartest and my most top recommendation for an Alice in Wonderland deck. I've seen some others, but I just don't think they do as well or as good as this deck does. So just putting that out there as a huge Alice in Wonderland fan. But the Wonderworld Tarot is a deck I also used during the month of June. Oh, and I forgot to include this one, so I'm just going to go like that and stick it right in there, okay? Anyways, we're going to move on to the next deck. Actually, how do I want to do this? I think I'm just going to talk about both of these at the same time. Maybe I'll show both of them too. These two decks. I also made a thing where I wanted to work with both of these. This is, of course, the Lillifer Tarot and the Gold Edition, and this is the Goblins and Gardens Tarot. Okay, both of these decks, you guys know I'm not going to talk about them too long because there's actually not a lot for me to say. I love both of these decks. They're up there in some of my favorites. These are decks that will never leave my collection, okay? I should say this right off the bat. They will never leave my collection. But I have to say, during the month of June, I wasn't really called, even though I scheduled to put both of these into the rotation, I wasn't really called to use either of these very much, which was very strange. Because you guys know, I specifically used both of these decks a lot last year, so I think that plays a pivotal part of this. I used both of these decks a lot last year. And I think because I used them a lot last year, I've talked about them a lot on my channel. I show them quite a bit. I wasn't called to use these when it was actually their time. I used both of these. I did use both of these to do at least 1 week ahead reading. But beyond that, I just wasn't as called. And I think it's because, again, I was looking to use other decks that I thought I wanted to give more of a spotlight and a chance to, right? So because of that reason, I only used both of these to do 1 reading, and then I kind of said, okay, goodbye, I love you though, love you, but I just didn't want to work with them. And sometimes, that's not, I should start by saying that's not a bad thing, okay? That's not a bad thing, because if you're someone like me who has I would say a mid to closer, bigger size collection now, you might have a lot of decks. And if you have a lot of decks, you need time to work with all of them. So even if you know that something, right, is your favorite, you might not always be gravitated to use them. And that's okay, because you're just giving other decks a chance. I think that's why, too, it was just good, because, for instance, Magic Pantry Tarot and the Garden Variety, they are slightly newer anyways in my collection. I got them in more recent times. So because of that, right, it makes sense that I would be more excited and wanting to use those decks more versus wanting to use decks that I have already used, I know already work for me, but I just wasn't in the mood, right? Or just, just didn't feel like using. So that's okay. And you're going to have those moments a lot when you have a bigger collection. So that's also okay too. I feel like that's normal. Don't freak out about that. But finally, I have one last deck that I can talk about that I used during the month of June. Not for a lot of things, but I did use it a little bit. And that is this deck. This right here is the Good Fortune Tarot. I'll put this little card back here. This is, if you don't know, I think this deck even came out this year, but it was earlier this year. And this is the Jessica Rue deck. It came out by Llewellyn. As you can see, it has a slight sheen to it, but if you can tell by the texture, it's Llewellyn's linen. I say that in quotes because it's not the greatest linen you'll ever find, but it is very flexible. It is a slight step up from their usual nasty cardstock, but I don't know. I don't know where they're going to go with this. But anyways, these are the backs. Very cool. Warning, this does have obviously a lot of bees. So if you're someone who doesn't like bugs and stuff a lot, you might not like this. I mean, you don't see, what's crazy is within the actual deck itself, it's not like you see a lot of bugs and things, but it definitely has a strong bee motif on the outside. And if you don't know anything about this deck, it's a really fascinating one. It takes a lot of RWS imagery, but it's supposed to be combining a lot of Marseille into it too. I'll be honest, I did use this for a couple of readings, but I'm actually, during the month of June, I was actually taking time to study it a little bit because I wanted to understand how the Marseille connection came in. I didn't finish that study, so it'll probably be more ongoing as, you know, as time goes on. Maybe I'll just like keep it around as like a study deck because there's a lot I want to dive into. But I think this deck is really cool. It verges more on the blues, grays, greens, gold kind of spectrum of color. The art is very beautiful though. There's diversity in this deck, age diversity, you know, regular diversity. It's a really, really beautiful one. As you can see, there's just so many cool choices, and I get excited about this deck because I just want to understand all of them. I do want to understand all the choices. This is such a cool Seven of Wands too. I really like this one. It was just doing a lot of cool things, but yeah, I used it mainly as a study, but I barely got into that kind of. But this was the last deck that I used in the month of June. And oh, I really like this Devil too. It's so interesting. There's a lot of interesting cards in this deck, to be honest. I like even the Six of Swords. Like, that's crazy. I love it though. I'm really curious what the guidebook's going to say. So I need to look more into that. Oh, and even this one is just so interesting and different. But yeah, if you're interested in this and want to see how RWS and Marseille can combine into a deck, definitely check this one out. I'm just excited by the possibilities. There's so many exciting possibilities in the month to come. But anyways, if you like this video, well, thank you first off so much for watching. I'm going to head out because I actually have stuff I have to get through today. Daryl, at the time of me filming this, Daryl was almost coming home. He was gone for about 3 weeks, almost basically a month of time, just gone. So, yeah, I'm still like cleaning and arranging and doing all the stuff, but I'm excited. So, yeah, thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you guys all again next time. Bye.